what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this, my second channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Flat Earth Debate pre-show and after-show goodness. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. And most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, you'll have to tune into Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, as this is actually a rerun. But we are joined by a whole bunch of people, as we are in the interim stages between the two live debates. So I'll raise the mic on the Hangout, and you can enjoy the dulcet tones of whoever the hell is in there while I set up for the second show over on Nathan Oakley 1980.
Listen, I see what you've got on screen. And I'm asking you, do you have any empirical evidence that supports this diagram? Yes or no?
I'm not presenting anything but the diagram, and I'm not answering any questions.
Well, I've got evidence that does not support your diagram. It directly conflicts with it, because what you're saying is that there would be a continuous rate on a sphere of the declination of Polaris in the night sky as you go around the circumference. However, we don't see a constant. We see a variable, and it slows as it gets to the horizon, as if it's getting further away from you.
Make of it what you will.
No, not really.
Go ahead and
fallacy,
tell
mate.
us all about
No,
what
it just changes its orientation on the globe of the heavens at the observers.
It slows down as it gets to the horizon.
So what I'm
really.
hearing is that you guys seem to be confused about geometry.
No, you seem to be confused about a reification fallacy. What you're presenting is zero evidential
Presenting
value.
A picture, a line drawing.
Yeah, it has zero evidential value.
No, it's a hypothesis. You can
Right,
do it.
a hypothesis. Stop a second,
No
Thomas.
evidence-
Thomas,
no
Thomas, just about to
evidence
start the show. Hi, good to have you here, Thomas. How you doing?
It's a hypothesis.
Stay with me,
the
Arwen. I was about to
presupposition
talk. Thank you, Arwen. So,
Claim.
you say it was a hypothesis, Thomas. A hypothesis?
It's a hypothesis based on two models.
Yeah, I hadn't finished my sentence, Tom. Can you calm down a little bit? While I talk, I like to be able
Are you going to try to
end my
refute me?
sentence. One more chance, Thomas. This is my show. You will shut the fuck up while I talk. Otherwise, I'll kick you out, you stupid twat.
You
Shut
won't
the
talk
fuck
to me
up.
like that.
Yeah.
Be a
You
man.
talk over me again, I'll just kick you out. I'll talk to you however the fuck I like.
Don't talk to me like
Yeah,
that.
I will. I'll
Three,
talk to you however the fuck I like.
two,
You're a stupid wanker. How about that? Stupid cunt.
Oh, you're a fucking bitch.
Yeah, you're a cunt. Yeah, I'll talk to you however you like. I'll be however I like on my show. This is my show. So I'll say it, and you don't have to like it. A hypothesis is a scientific prediction. It predicts the relationship between the independent and dependent variable. This, you total fucktard, is not a hypothesis. Okay, you fucking retard?
And also, is it not a hypothesis? It has zero evidential value. It's nothing more than a cartoon picture of Mickey Mouse.
Right, absolutely correct. Cartoons are not hypotheses. Stupid fucking moron.
Yeah.
So
And his models were based on presuppositions.
Right.
this takes me
The
nicely
stars
back
were
to
in physical positions.
this
so-
takes me nicely back to Mike's point. Now, I don't know. I'm not saying that this gent that was just on is a physicist in any way, but when people come on and make assertions like that are trained in physics, like the rumpus, he does things like this. He presents evidence for the Etvos effect, and he shows like a 4D graph with a lovely swerve. And when you ask about where the information comes from, it's what do you know? What do you know? It comes from the model. Have you?
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Adam Meakin, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty, Mike, Earth Flattener, Daniel, Chocolate Saying, Arwin and Alan. Good to have you all.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Well, that was a brief. That was an interesting break.
Yeah, I ended the show, came back to total chaos with some guy shouting at you, demanding that we accept a diagram as a hypothesis. What was going on? It was like away for 2 minutes.
We'd concluded the point with Mike, I think, and then this idiot came on with a lovely reification fallacy model thing that has zero evidential value to it whatsoever, and he thinks it's self-explanatory proof of something. Well, I was quick to tell him that it wasn't proof of anything, and it had zero evidential value to it. He started getting.
It doesn't work on your model. It doesn't work on your model.
Well, when I asked for evidence that supported his assertion or his hypothesis, as he called it, he didn't have any, and I had evidence to the contrary, but we didn't get to that point because he started becoming a little bit upset. And he ended up getting kicked. So shout out to Nathan for kicking out a moron.
I didn't kick him out.
No, triggered Globe is
Very
my favorite
easily
part of the
triggered.
show.
Yeah.
I just swore at him a lot.
I grabbed a screenshot of what he was presenting.
Come on, let's represent it. Let's have a giggle.
There you go. It's on screen.
So this is what he was presenting as a hypothesis. He just said it's a diagram. It's a hypothesis. Fill your boots.
So basically what he was trying to say is that Polaris moves at a certain rate by virtue of the curvature of the Earth, right? And it's predictable. It's a static on their model. It moves at a set rate. I asked him, did he have any evidence that supported his assertion? And he hasn't got any. But I've got evidence that shows that this is not what happens because it appears to slow down. And Mick West even has to address this on his webpage. He calls it refraction. He says that the effects of refraction are most seen clearly at the horizon where all the stars appear to slow down, including Polaris. So the problem is if we live on a ball, that rate of drop in the night sky has got to be that 69 miles for every 1 degree of latitude travel. But it doesn't happen, does it? Because it slows, and it's slow. It's observable with the naked eye. But I bet you if you got some super precise trillions of dollars experimental equipment from NASA, they could do it very precisely and calculate exactly what the angle is to 10 decimal places, etc. And we could see that actually it starts way before the eye detects it or the mobile phone detects it. And that really does work against the idea that we live on a sphere because it has to be a constant if we're on a sphere, and it doesn't do it.
Nathan, do you want to tell him why it's not a hypothesis?
I tried to, but he got very angry with me, didn't I? I mean, we discussed this on the last show with Alan, asserting that the methodology we talk about is wrong somehow, but it isn't. That's just the scientific method. Independent variable, varied and manipulated to cause, if you've got it right, that is, the effect of your observed phenomena. That is science. So when you say something's a hypothesis, what I've just described is a hypothesis. A scientific prediction. It predicts your presumed cause and its effect on the dependent variable, your observed phenomena. That's a scientific prediction or a hypothesis. This ain't that.
So let's go back to Mike for a minute. Are you there, Mike?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
So I'm not professing or proclaiming that the guy that just joined has any qualifications in physics, but that's the standard of behavior, or not behavior, the standard of like narrative that we often get presented by people that are trained in physics. The rumpus will never ever concede any points. He'll never ever concede that sometimes there's evidence that goes against him, and he hasn't got an explanation for it without distorting the bands of science with regards to how light behaves in the atmosphere. Because we all know that light doesn't follow a curved path, but he has to push it. Now, there's no evidence that light follows a curved path in the atmosphere. Yeah, it does deviate from straight, but it ain't a curve. There's no curve to light, but Rumpus pushes it because it says so in the model. Things like that annoy me. Can you understand why I get annoyed with things like that? Or do you think that I should be more lenient with them because they're physics trained?
Well, on those points, I haven't got a physics degree, so I wouldn't know it either way. But I'm just comparing someone thinking they know something about the law, which you put them right, with someone in the same position but with a degree in physics, talking to someone who thinks they know something about physics.
Sure, but if Ranty called me on it and said that I'd got that wrong, I would be able to go to the code of conduct and bring out the exact page that states specifically that everybody's got the right to a fair trial. And that includes representation, right? I could actually do that, but can other physicists prove things like gravity when we point out to them that they can't prove it, but they start preaching it and explaining it and drawing diagrams and doing maths, and all we want is the proof. There's a difference between the two. I can support the position with something, but these guys only explain it or do it with maths, but they never prove it. So there's a difference, there's a disparity, and it's that disparity that I'm focusing on.
So do you think
these people can prove gravity?
So do you think there's something wrong with the way people get taught physics at, say, A-level or university then?
No,
I think there's something wrong with the evidence that people present to be truth, yes. Have you looked into the distance to the sun by any chance, Mike?
No.
You should do, because you'll find zero evidence of any credibility whatsoever. The most current technology, according to the current science, is that they were able to bounce ping reflections from radar telescopes from Venus. And the current citation from it, or one of the leading citations from it, is Jodrell Bank in Nantwich. Are you familiar with Jodrell Bank?
No, but can I say, but your definition of the distance to the sun is there is no distance to the sun, which personally seems, well, I don't understand that, to be honest.
Well, we haven't been able to find any evidence that proves the distance to the sun. So unless someone can show us how they've done this and where did they get this distance from the sun from? I mean, we do know where they got it from. It originated from a guy called Christian Huygens. Are you familiar with Christian Huygens?
I did listen to the hangout when, is it Jimmy brought him up the first time?
Yeah. So Christian Huygens assumed that Venus was the same size as Earth, which was based on an assumption itself that Eratosthenes assumed that we were on a sphere when he did his sticks in the ground observation and the Wells observation. He assumed that we were a sphere. Neil deGrasse Tyson states that, well, the maths does actually work out both ways. It does work out. But if you don't assume that we're on a sphere in the first place for Eratosthenes, and you don't assume that Venus is the same size as Earth, what does that then do to the maths for the distance to the sun?
I don't know. How am I supposed to know?
Well, come on, think about it. If you assume that if you have an assumption that's based on an assumption, you've got a 25% chance that you might actually be right. 75% chance that you're wrong. Still no evidence, though, that proves that you are right. Just probability. Come on, what does it do to your maths if you've got a 1 in 4 chance of being right?
So I didn't quite understand how you got to 1 in 4, but as I just pointed out, but you're sorry, I've got to take this.
Well, if you assume that Venus is the size of Earth, you're either right or you're wrong. So that's 50-50. Now, if you go with one of them, you then assume that the Earth is a sphere of a given size, according to Eratosthenes. But he assumed it were a sphere. So it may be a sphere or it may not be. So your 50-50 then becomes 25-25. So that's where you get your 1 in 4 from, your 25%.
But Tony, they've been using radar since 1961.
So
why are you using examples before that?
I just gave you well, I didn't finish my point with the radar. The Jodrell Bank telescope, the radio telescope at Jodrell Bank, I am unable to, even though I'm in academia at the minute, I cannot get access to the data that proves that there was ever a successful ping from, and I've got the dean of my university to try and get me in there, and I'm not getting there. They're not letting me in. They are literally ignoring me, right? Why would they do that if it's body of science?
I wonder why they're doing that.
They can't ignore the dean though, can they? But they're ignoring her. I'm not getting access to it. Wonder why that might be. Wouldn't be dead proud to show one of the best achievements of mankind. Why would they not want to show this information? Do I have to get a court order to get access to this information? Or can I call it bullshit because they don't seem to have it?
Bullshit. I just like the idea that you're using examples from 1672, etc.
He's just using an example right now saying that he can't get access to it.
I wonder why, though.
What do you mean you wonder why?
I wonder why as well. Why might that be, Alan? Wouldn't you think they'd be dead proud to present it because they were the leading cutting-edge technology at the time, and they calculated and proved it with ping reflections from Venus? Yeah. Why is it that I can't get hold of it? You tell me.
Yeah, I'm interested. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I'm getting shut door after shut door. I've got the dean of my university involved to try and get me access to it, and they're ignoring her, literally ignoring her.
Are they the only people that's measured it?
Well, they're the only people I can get access to reasonably before summer. I can't fly across the world to the JPL telescope in some valley somewhere in the middle of America. So realistically speaking, yeah. Practically, no.
Got email.
Oh, yeah, and I'm trying that, and it doesn't work. I'm not getting the information that I want. I want to see the evidence that this ping reflection data actually exists. I want to see it. I want to see where they got it from. I want to see how they got it. I want to see the paper that they cited and published in their documentation with the evidence in it, not a graph. I want to see the evidence. I want to see that they got this little thing that they're telling us that they got. I want to see it.
Do you think you'd understand it?
Riley, you don't understand, man. You're ruffling feathers, man. The education system is the backbone of their indoctrination. So
of course
they don't want you asking the wrong questions, man.
Well,
yeah, be prepared to meet a whole lot more roadblocks than this.
To answer your question, Alan, do I think I'd understand it? Well, I know specifically what I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for a rabbit and they present me a rabbit, then I don't need to understand how the rabbit works. I just know that it's a rabbit. So I think I'm pretty much on the ball when it comes to the specific piece of evidence that I'm looking for that proves that this actually did happen.
What do you do if it's a hare?
I'd accept that it's still a rabbit. I'm not intelligent enough to understand the difference between the two in this context, am I? I couldn't tell you. Well, at least if they present something, right? It's not nothing. So, where's this body of strength?
I've got a question for Alan. Just on what we were. I need your help, really, Alan, if you could, because we were talking about science and stuff, and I was just thinking in the break. That definition was pretty rigid up until the 19th century, and it's only in the latter.
He's left.
Might just have a mobile connection or something. I know he does join on a mobile, so he might be back in a second.
No, he's gone.
I'll finish the point, and maybe I won't be back. Not maybe he can answer for us. So we've seen as what we now critique what's purported to be science, and that change that's happened in the latter half of the 20th century, particularly. And I just wondered whether Alan would consider that a good definition of hypernormalization, because he brought this word, didn't he, the other day?
I was going to say,
and it says,
if you can summarise what that word means, Adam.
The surreal state of a large stage communism in which semantic basis of consensus reality is absurdity. So, I'm reading it as it's where reality is based upon consensus, not actual. And that, to me, I was wondering whether it was a genuine question, because I was struggling to see where it fit, but that would seem an applicable case if that's what it is, where actually we've seen a hyper-normalization of something that isn't science to be defined and used in mainstream society as a science. And actually, when you do stuff like which contradicts it, it really does create this response where there is a strong feeling that this false definition is definition, and you fight against it, and that's because it's become hyper-normalized, this situation where pseudoscience is accepted as science if it is given the title science.
Yeah, so let me just expand on that with regards to Mike. Mike, are you still there?
Yes.
You know, when you said, is there anything like, do you empathize with these people when the physicists and all this, and can you understand that these guys are trained and stuff, and they must look down on us in some respects because they must think that we're daft?
No, my question is, do you understand someone with education, say physics, talking to someone who isn't, and that person's coming up with a basic
well,
just like the example I gave you regarding law.
Sure. Well, let me give you an example where I'm not trained in physics and I don't profess to be, right? I do get stuff wrong. I do make mistakes and I deserve it when I get stuff wrong. We all do, right? Differences with my side on our side is we can admit it because we're learning, right? You guys can't, well, the ballers can't admit it, never will admit it, and never, ever, ever. Well, basically, they've just got this defiance disorder because they believe so strongly that their evidence is supreme. Now, I'm going to give you an example where physics, modern day physics, is giving us some evidence in science that they call scientific. And they say that this is a really good example of where the schools should all be brainwashing, teaching kids. So this is basically the replication of the Aristophanes experiment from different schools in 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, 2015. They got a variety of loads of schools, 20 institutions over 12 different countries, and they were all measuring the shadows caused by the sun on one particular day in and around the Mediterranean. And they were all trying to calculate the circumference of the Earth, reapplying the Aristophanes experiment. We all know the experiment. It's serious. It's proper. Everyone knows how strong it is. It proves that we live on a sphere. Right? Wrong. Look at what it says in this. It talks about the abstract. It talks about the introduction. It talks about what they did, how they did it, who did it, how many kids there were. Look at all the geometry that they're assuming here, a bit of R that they're assuming. But get there, watch this. When we get down to the discussion part, right at the very end, right, this is where it bugs me with science because whilst I take your point, these are the bits that really disturb me in terms of what's being taught in schools because we have a problem. Under paragraph 4, it reads discussion. Inquiry-based hands-on experiments in classrooms require simple constructs to satisfy a student's curiosity. The ancient Aristophanes experiment, right, that's a contentious word, trigger word immediately, provides an excellent inquiry-based hands-on approach for today's students to conceptualize and solve, but not prove, an abstract problem that even contradicts everyday conceptions. We all know that the Earth is round, although it appears flat. So this paper is basically trying to recreate the Aristophanes experiment with current science of 2015, and it's all based on, well, we all know that the Earth's round. And they don't even say spherical, they say round. That's another trigger word. So when you say, do you empathize with these people? No, not at all, because these people are part of the problem. These people are pushing this education to cut, and these are passing it off as good. These things are supposed to be happening in schools. Well, this is nonsense. This is not proving the point. And they're calling it science. They're calling it an experiment. There's no experiment here. It's an observation and a measurement of a shadow. But there's no cause and effect relationship. There's no hypothesis. But they're telling you as though it is. They're making it sound dead credible. And I take offense to that because people like Rumpus should be pointing out with the peer review process that this is not an experiment. That it doesn't prove a cause and effect relationship. It shouldn't be called an experiment. But do they speak up about it? No, they don't. Why is that? Is it because perhaps if they speak up about it, they get their wages taken off them? I reckon it is. Because there's nobody in this room, there's nobody in the Flat Earth discussion that would accept that this is an experiment. It isn't. It's an observation and a recording of that observation, or perhaps a measurement. But it's definitely not a cause and effect relationship. It's definitely not an experiment. And this one is based on this concept. We all know the Earth is round, not spherical, round. So technically they're not really lying because we say it's round as well, just flat. But it appears to be flat. I think it's disgusting. So no, I don't empathize with science. I think that they deserve all the flack that they get because they can't prove their nonsense to be true. This is the problem. If they're going to go into physics and they think that they're going to be preaching a good word, it's right that we challenge them on their evidence because what they tell us they can't prove, but they pass it off as though it's proof. It isn't. It's just science claiming to be science, but it isn't actually science. And people like the Rumpus don't call out this nonsense. They don't point out that this is not an experiment. And I want to know why. This is not an experiment, but nobody's going to call it out.
Riley, don't forget that one of the most popular astrophysicists, right, Mikio Kaku, says himself, and I know I said it before, but he said it himself. When science is studying cosmology, they're off. The level of mistakes could be 1 to the 120th degree. That's 1 with 120 zeros after that. So we're supposed to just trust science when that's the estimate that we're given? Bullshit. Sorry.
Whereas in contrast, if you asked me for the definition of theft in the UK law, I could reel it off the tip of my tongue. It's the dishonest appropriation of property belonging to another with the intention to permanently deprive. And if you said that I was lying, I could go to the statute book, I could pull it out, and I could say, there it is, it's Theft Act 1968, Section 1, and I could give you a lot of the cases that support the prosecutions that were to do with theft. But the same doesn't happen in science. So no, I don't have any sympathy or empathy, and that's why I've challenged a PhD level physicist he's a professor in a university. I won't say which one just yet. And on the 6th or might be the 8th of January next year, I'll be actually debating him in a televised, recorded. It's going to be recorded live, but presented later on. But it will be presented as live, because I'm basically, these guys can't prove their stories to be true, and that's what I'm doing. I'm challenging it because it's not true. Now, I'm doing it not from a physics background, but from an evidence background. And I can tell when they're making the point, if their point's supported by evidence or not. Sometimes it's a bit 50-50 and there's a debate there, it's moot. Sometimes it's 25 and 75. Sometimes it doesn't prove anything because it doesn't comply with the standard of proof. And these people are accountable. These people that are called physicists need to be accountable, because if I said that the definition of theft was wrong and I got it wrong, I'd be accountable for that. So why is it that science isn't accountable for the things that it doesn't get right? Why is it able to call things experiments when they're not actually experiments? They're not proving a cause and effect relationship. They're actually indoctrinating children that we live on they didn't call it a sphere, they said round. And everybody knows that it's round. Well, that's nonsense. We're being told lies. And these physicists that are asleep, red-pilled up, know all the stuff, but can't apply any of it. Because they're compartmentalized, they don't understand that things that need to be proved, and they're not proved. They just accept that it's proof and pass it on as though it's true. It's not.
Okay. I just noticed you did change the word science and physics a fair amount in that conversation. Was that on purpose or just?
Well, science is very precise. It's narrow. Science is a method. Science is empirical based. It's not based on theology or like pseudoscience or
mathematics, for that matter.
Yeah, or philosophy. These like science is based on
expressed in mathematics, but it is by default not mathematical based. It's basically
it's an
independent variable, dependent variable. You don't have to use any kind of math language to do it.
Correct.
And that's very critical.
Whereas physics is very heavily dependent on mathematics. Sometimes they do have cause and effect relationships. Other times they don't. But how's anybody ever going to prove a cause and effect relationship for gravity? But it's all accepted. You've got to manipulate that independent variable. So if you're going to test for gravity, you've got to manipulate that gravity to prove that it is the thing that you're saying it is. Obviously, you can't manipulate gravity unless either you pull a planet closer because of Newtonian principles, or you got a little bit of space-time to bend. So unless you can demonstrate these things that you're claiming and prove and vary them and show the effect with the dependent variable, unless you can prove these things, these are not actually science. These are pseudoscience. These are stories. Yeah, they're based in logic, and it seems logical because everybody understands how gravity works. You've got to be a moron to think that gravity doesn't work. Yeah, it's deduction-based logic.
It's very specifically deduction-based. That's why the G is always tied onto everything. But even when they try to prove it, I guess, they put it in there as if it has already been established, basically. It's bizarre.
So let me ask you the same question. Do you empathize with physics or physicists when they see us talking the way we talk? Do you empathize with them when you see us attacking the fundamental basis of their work?
Of course. Well, it's terrifying.
Not you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I empathize with your position when you asked that question about the law. So, yeah, I would, I guess, because I do have some faith in the education system, I guess.
So you do empathize with our position. Sorry, you do empathize.
I empathize with someone who's got, let's say, education in whatever field, whether it be law or physics or chemistry or biology or whatever. Talking to someone doesn't who thinks they know something which may be basic to them. For example,
how about people that did gender studies?
Hold on.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, for example, some flat earthers say that you should be able to feel 1,000 miles per hour, whereas you only feel acceleration as opposed to speed. That's just one example. Top of my head.
But one of the statements that I picked you up on earlier, and I was about to jump on you for it, was your sweeping statement that when these physicists see us talking about it and we're not educated or whatever, and
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You did say that.
I said physics. Someone in physics talking to someone, say a flat earther who hasn't got an education in that particular field.
Yeah, but you didn't say it that way. You generalized.
No. Well, okay. I'm saying it that way. I thought I said it this way. I'm saying it that way now. This way now. So yeah.
Right. I was just going to say, because Mr. Meekin on the panel here he has a postgraduate diploma in chemistry, and I have a postgraduate diploma in law.
Hold on. Every last one of us went to school on this panel, did we not? Anybody who didn't go to school on this panel?
I did, but I got better.
Right. So every single one of us has had an education in the scientific method at school. So why would you assume that any of the people discussing this subject don't understand the scientific method when we were all taught it? So we do have an understanding of it if we all went to school.
The reality is there's a lot of what Mike's doing there is he's giving people who hold these fields extra power over his intelligence for no reason. We're not talking about the ability to analyze a particle physics paper. We're talking about the basic principles of what science defines itself as and a comprehension of that. And it doesn't require A-levels, GCSEs. It doesn't require even going to school. It just requires you to be a sentient human being, be able to read the definition now and apply it logically to what you're then being told. And I don't think you should give away such power to people, Mike.
Was there a reason why you asked that specific question?
Yeah, because I want to know if you. My question was, can you empathize with it? That's what I was asking, and you said no, which is fine. This is the answer.
I just add something here that before the first show, I was chatting with Anthony about his position with Nora, and I asked him a fairly carefully phrased question to establish whether or not it was an argument based on emotion or on facts. And he was quite categorical in his answer, and it was quite concise, and it led me to the certainty that he's only basing his arguments on the facts. So when you say, do you empathise? Well, this isn't an argument about feelings. Empathy doesn't come into it. Same with the judge, if you want to go back to the law example. Does the judge care if he has empathy for the person on the side? No. It doesn't come into it. It's not important. I don't care about their feelings. If they get their feelings hurt because they feel that they know all about this subject, and then we hand them their own arse in terms of the actual scientific method that they're not adhering to, tough luck. Sorry if you had your feelings hurt, Mr. PhD.
Exactly.
I remember something from school, because in physics class pretty early on, they did actually teach the scientific method. But then as soon as I learned that, I was like really impressed, like, finally, I'm really entering the circles of knowledge and science. Was very impressed. I believed in it. And then they basically stepped away from applying it. And it was like, why aren't we using the scientific method on this? Isn't that supposed to be what we're doing? I remember this. And they said, yeah, but no, it makes it too complicated and we're just going to stick to the curriculum. And I was really disappointed back then and kind of forgot about it. So odd, but they did teach it and then they just left it to the side.
But are we? At school, they teach us things gradually. They don't teach us everything when we're 12 years old or 13 years old.
No, I mean, some things you have to, you're expected to find out. For example, when they teach you about the heliocentric model, and it's implied that you live on a model, you later in life go out and find the definition of a reification fallacy falls into that exact definition of believing that you live in a world that the model represents, because you don't. That's a reification fallacy. But they're very explicit when they teach you that it's a model. They don't say the Earth is, they say the heliocentric model is. Now, for all those idiots who assert that that's the world we live in, then you're reifying a model. That's a fallacy. But, the education system doesn't tell you it's a reification fallacy to actually assume you live on that model, and that the model says what you should and shouldn't see when you go out and open your bloody eyes, People just do that because they're dumb and they haven't gone out and educated themselves on what a reification fallacy is. You know, the map is not the terrain. We don't live on a model.
Right.
Do you know what I find most offensive? Just pushing your comment a little bit further, is that this topic, FE, is clearly contentious, right? There's arguments that goes both ways, and there is valid and legitimate opposing views that go against the official narrative.
What? Where?
Blame me.
Blame me.
Got him.
Got him too. Hey, Rumpus.
Hello.
So let me just finish before Rumpus pipes up. There is valid opposition, legitimate disagreement, evidence that's contrary to the official narrative. And that is not told to children in schools. Now, whether or not they preach or teach an alternative model is not what I'm saying. But what should be told is that this stuff's contentious and not everybody agrees that the sun is a ball of gas. It's got more dynamic, more attributes of a fluid than it does a gas. It doesn't have attributes of a gas that it should have if it's a gas. These are valid and legitimate complaints. So the fact that children are not told that it's contentious sweeps under the rug the contentious nature of what we're disagreeing over. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be the case that this is our best guess, but it is contentious. If you want to know more about it, go online and have a look and see what you can find. There's a lot of information out there and you have to work it out yourself, but this is our best guess. If I was told that at the age of 16, 15, 14, I may not have given a shit at that point, but I might have took on to it and thought maybe there's something else I can learn out there if I go and look into it.
Shout out to Flat Earth Data for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed.
And getting to the age of 36 before realizing that there's a valid, legitimate debate over what the sun is not really acceptable. We should have been told that it was contentious in school, and we're not getting told that. We're getting told that this is the way it is. There's nothing else out there to learn, and we know what we're talking about. Well,
Tony. So I can't remember being taught about the sun at school, but I do remember being taught about mechanics, Newtonian mechanics. But I wasn't told that that doesn't work at a small scale till you start learning about quantum mechanics much later. I don't think I even did that at school. So the way the education system works, you get taught something for the age you are. And then, for example, Newtonian mechanics, that works all the time, they tell us. But when you get older and you specialize in, say, quantum mechanics, say, they'll tell you then, as I understand it, Newtonian mechanics fails when you're talking about electrons and small particles like that.
Not contentious at all. We understand the sun very well. Well, actually, not very well, but we understand what it's made of. We understand that it's made of various gases.
Is it a gas or a liquid, Rumpus?
It's a gas.
And how do you know that?
Because of observations of it, we can measure the spectroscopy. From spectroscopy, we can analyze what it's made of and determine That's how we discovered helium, for a start.
So if I see somebody in a bikini with a pair of boobs in a swimming pool, but I can't quite tell whether they're male or female, but I deduce from the fact that I'm seeing boobs in a bikini, does that prove that they're female?
Well, you're starting to talk about how you prove things. You can only prove things in maths.
Yeah, spectroscopy is not exactly reliable, Rumpus.
Absolutely reliable.
No, you can't physically confirm it.
Yes, we can.
Correct.
No, you can't. You can only confirm it when you actually have the material and applying it to that.
Correct.
Could you just give an answer to Anthony's question with his example, Rumpus? So he said, if you're in a pool and you're looking at a person in a bikini with breasts, can you ascertain whether or not they are male and female by looking at them?
No, I suppose not.
So how is that any different to having a look at the stars?
Well, because we can determine the material something's made of.
And you can determine whether or not she's got a cock. So, can you determine whether or not she's got a cock?
Well, you've got to decide what female means. If you mean it's got an XY chromosome, you even get women sometimes have an XY chromosome. So that's a problem. You've got to decide
there's even more problems. So there's even more problems to it. So there's other layers. Wow, I hadn't even considered that. Wow, that makes the stars. That makes looking at the stars seem even more futile, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because there's a clear-cut relationship between the spectroscopy of an object, such as the sun, which is sending off all these lovely colours that we can analyse, to what's inside it. So it's very much clearer in the case of the sun than it is about a woman in a bikini. We can be much more sure about the sun than we can about a bikini.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So the woman in the bikini, you make your little guess, you have a little look. You know what you can do next, Rumpus? You can go over and you can have a little conversation. You might even end up in bed with her.
Well, we've got to decide what female means. If you mean it's XY chromosome...
I'm trying to draw the comparison that you can go and have a little check with the example that we're giving. Can you go and have a little check with the sun?
Yeah, we
really?
can identify. This is what
So
have
you've
chemical
been and
tests.
had
We
a
have
check?
chemical.
Sorry, you've just said yes. You've answered in the affirmative. Who has been to check on what the sun is made
You
of?
don't
Rumpus?
you touch it to identify what it's made of.
Sorry,
That's
has
wonders
somebody
of
been to
physics.
check? You can't touch it. So that would be a no then, wouldn't it? So unlike the example of the woman that you also don't know and you can only look at after the fact, once you've made your decision, based on vision only, you can go and check the woman in the pool. You can't go and check the sun because apparently we can't go and touch it. So that's a no then. That's a no. That's a no, Rumpus.
It's much easier to draw a conclusion from a deduction than actually confirm it. That's true, Rumpus.
We have evidence using established scientific verified techniques of how to determine the constituents of something from its spectroscopy, and that goes to the sun.
Scientific,
Everything
you say?
about the sun confirms
So is it,
that.
it's a prediction, is it?
It's mass, etc., etc.
Sorry, you said science, Rumpus, so it's a scientific prediction then?
Scientific prediction.
You seem
If
to be
you
mumbling.
mean that we have tests of spectroscopy in the lab,
Yes,
and then we
tests,
can compare
tests.
those
Yes,
against
I heard you
spectroscopy
correctly
in the
then.
sun.
So a test, a scientific test, that would be an experiment, wouldn't it, Rumpus?
Well, it's an observation in the case of...
No. That would be step one in the scientific method. We were talking about tests. And in science, tests are experiments. Aren't they,
No,
Rumpus?
observations. Just because you don't...
No, that would be step one. Tests are not observations, Rumpus. That's entirely my point. So, Rumpus, let's try that again. If we're talking about tests, we are talking about experiments, not observations.
No, observations. Science includes observations, Nathan.
Yeah, that would be step one in the scientific method. Step one, observe a phenomena. Yeah? So it's part of the scientific method, but it's not the experiment. It's step one. The experiment comes much later.
You're talking about experiments.
Yes, scientific tests based on scientific predictions, otherwise known as hypothesis. You said we've got science. So,
no, observations, science, Nathan.
Yes, step one, we keep going around in circles. Do it again and I'll kick you out. We have established firmly that yes, observation of phenomena is step one in the scientific method. That will be followed by a prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis, and that will be backed, because it's an assumption of a cause, doesn't actually prove the cause, it'll be backed by systematic experimentation. Now that experimentation in science is a test.
The definition you use of science includes observations.
Yes, that's correct. Step one for the third time. I am going to now kick you out because you are a circle-jerking wanker. Yes, that's correct, Rumpus. Step one, observe a phenomena. So asserting that it's part of it when I'm trying to tie you down to the test you think you've got, then we'll get the hypothesis that it's based on, because experiments are hypothesis tests. But you don't want to link those two things, don't you? You want to call a test something that's just based on an observation without the scientific prediction in between. So you're leaving out a step in the scientific method, Rumpus. We did it 3 times. Now you can go away. Don't waste my time.
So, Mike, are you there?
Yes, I think I am.
You've just had a demonstration where a guy with a physics degree professes to be some kind of like guru, some kind of leading authority, and he's missing out a key stage of the scientific method. In response to your question, do you have empathy for these people? And I said no. Would you disagree with me based on what you've just seen?
Well, I'm not sure I would say that spectroscopy is a invalid method. It's what you said in this conversation.
It's not science.
Spectroscopy is not science.
Correct.
No. Did you not listen to a word I just said?
No, Anthony said that spectroscopy was invalid. It has problems or faults. That's what you said.
It's not science.
It's not science.
I got a crackling clear moon outside, by the way.
I've got you up, Owen. It looks nice. So yes, that's correct. Spectroscopy is not science. It's not establishing any cause of anything. It only has step one in the scientific method, observation of phenomena. So they're having a little look of it. And then when we say, okay, well, next step in the scientific method is to presume a cause of the effect, and then go forth to establish if it is actually the cause of that effect or not. That would be the scientific method. Now, the middle step, the hypothesis step, is the bit that Rumpus wanted to sidestep and claimed that you only need to observe things, which is what the pseudoscience of astrophysics does. So astrophysicists have a little look at something and then they draw a conclusion. That is not the scientific method. That's called a Mystic Meg prediction, as opposed to a scientific prediction, which would be called a hypothesis.
So when Rumpus comes in and he makes assertions about what the sun is, and we ask him, well, how do you know? And then he starts talking about something that's not science, but he presents it as though it is science, and people like yourself believe perhaps that it was actually scientific, but we were being pedantic. What we're actually doing is pointing out that this stuff's not actually science. Now, it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with what I just said. My point is that it did not comply with the scientific method, but Rumpus promotes it and supports it as though it is science. And I say that that's false. Now, whether you agree or not is not what I'm asking, but can you at least see the reason why we attack?
Not at this moment in time. That's the honest answer.
I'll try once more, Anthony. So there's an established method, Mike. It's called the scientific method. Yep. And what Rumpus has just done is left out a very key step and yet still claimed it's science. Now, by definition, that makes what he is doing pseudoscience, outside of science, because he's missed a very key step. The step that establishes the independent and dependent variable relationship. That would be called a scientific hypothesis, otherwise known as a scientific prediction.
Can you now see why it's an issue?
He's not establishing a cause and effect relationship.
Right,
Yeah.
and he's calling it science. But he's calling it science. So science is pretty narrow, but he's calling something that does establish cause science. So it gives it weight, like it's actually proven something. And it hasn't. It's just looking at something and drawing a conclusion. Maybe do a bit of maths in between to make it seem more legit. But it's not science. That's the point. And when they claim it's science, as Rumpus has just done, we get pretty ticked off with him. Especially when I point that out to him and he continually asserts that observation is part of science. Yeah, we don't want partial science. We want an adherence to the scientific method. And he hasn't got that. But he still keeps calling it science, which is an outrage, Mike. That's what we're pointing out. And you're asking, should we empathise because he's got a degree? No. What I'll do is point out where he's wrong.
But it goes further than that, Nathan. It's when we point out to Mike that we've clearly demonstrated the issue with what we say is the reason why there's no empathy. And then we ask him, does he at least see the point that we're making? And he says no. And I'm like, come on, Mike. We've just demonstrated that someone right on cue has come in, done exactly what we say that they shouldn't be doing. And now you don't see that what's just happened is exactly the point that we're making. And now you don't seem to see it. What's going on? Come on.
That is incredible. Hey, Mike. Do you
Hello?
Do you think it's easier to figure out what the sex of another person is over what a star like the sun is?
Well, if you don't include spectroscopy, then
Yes or
depends
no?
what you're.
It's easier to figure out what the sex of another person is
From
over
afar.
what the sun is.
From a distance. That's what the initial argument was.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. A person on Earth versus the sun, which one is easier to figure out?
Well, obviously
What?
you can do a blood test on the person, so yeah, it'd be easy to figure out.
Okay.
So
Well,
first-
Rumpus is making an argument that it's easier to figure out the sun regardless of anything else because he has to do that.
Because it has to be.
Yeah, they've already got a narrative for what it is. So for him to admit that the narrative's based on utter nonsense, non-scientific, pseudoscience, Mystic Meg predictions, then it doesn't give him much credibility when the narrative is that this is figured out. They do know what the sun is. So he has to assert that, in the face of us pointing out contradictions, errors, holes, and examples that parallel it, where he claims it's easier to figure out the sun than it is to figure out if a woman sat in a bikini in a pool is a woman or not. Apparently the sun's easier to figure out. Science, right? Apparently, until you pick it apart and find out there is no scientific method being applied.
So let me ask the question again, because I know you did answer it, but I'm going to invite you to change your mind. Whether or not you agree with the point we made or not, can you at least see that by pointing out that this is not actually science is a valid complaint against people in physics claiming that this is science when it's actually not?
I still don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean,
the answer is no, this is not science. They shouldn't be doing it. That's the answer.
Could I add a point from the mainstream that kind of underlies what Andy's kind of saying? There's been some stuff in the flat Earth this week. There's, I think he's French, certainly a French name physicist, coming out, and it's quite fun because it relates to the spectroscopy of the sun. And as he's putting out, and you'll have to excuse my ignorance here because my understanding of spectroscopy is lab based, not astrophysics. But it's basically that a body like the sun is what they're measuring is a full spectrum given by this body, and apparently that's impossible given their physics from the sun if the sun is a gaseous body, because it needs to have non-gaseous components to create this level of full spectrum emission, I think is it summarized. And so for me, you know, the mainstream, the debate's there, but what I think Andy's kind of saying is, look, these guys are preaching not even science, they're preaching a doctrine, and they're rigid in that doctrine.
so you've done chemistry. So as I understand it, spectroscopy is used a lot in chemistry, right?
Yeah.
To identify compounds.
That's not science, technology, isn't it? It's a piece of technology I'm using. I'm not doing science when I use the equipment.
But you are identifying the compound, and you have faith in that identification.
That's not science. I'm using a piece of technology.
But you do have faith in the answer you get.
Well, it's deduction based, and it works out.
Yeah, I've got no problem with using the answer. Whether how I apply the answer.
Hold on, sorry a second. Sorry, Adam. Sorry, can you just ask your question again, Mike?
Sorry?
Can you ask your question again, please?
You want me to ask the question again?
Yeah, your last question. Can you just repeat it?
I asked, you use spectroscopy in chemistry. He said yes. Then I asked, what did I ask? I asked, do you use it to identify compounds?
You said, does he have
and
faith?
He said yes.
Does he have faith in the answer?
Yes, in the answer. So you get an answer from doing spectroscopy in compounds to identify them. You get an answer. You have faith in that answer.
Yeah. So science isn't faith-based. So it doesn't. It matters. It matters not. Yeah. Go. Sorry, Adam. I'm cutting you off. You go ahead.
This would be the point. Yeah. I mean, this is why we're a good way of explaining it is it isn't doing science. It's using technology because. You know, no, I don't have faith, but with all equipment, I have a confidence interval that it operates within. So I have a level of assurity that what the machine is telling me is true, but that isn't science.
It has been trial and error based, and the percentage of error has been basically marked down with that device, correct, Adam?
Yeah, but science isn't that. That isn't science.
No, but it's statistics. Yeah, exactly. It's statistics, but it is deemed very reliable.
I'm not happy to use it, yes, but that isn't anything to do with science.
Exactly. Okay, that's my answer to my question. Thank you.
It's practical. It's not science.
Okay, great. So
there may have been some science done that led to the development of that piece of equipment, that piece of technology. There may be some scientific principles behind it, some scientific experiments that allow us to put together certain principles that we believe in and have faith or know a scientific fact, but we put it together to build that machine. But using and operating the machine is using and operating the machine.
So let me just interrupt there, just to read this citation.
Just before you do, Anthony. Sorry, I just want to get one more in, and then I'll put your citation up. So it seems like you've conceded, Mike, that using technology is not science. You seem to have conceded that quite happily.
By the definition of science, I guess, yeah.
Right. So by definition, we have scientists claiming they are purveyors of science when they are not?
Because they use technology like spectroscopy.
Correct.
So,
Nathan,
hold on. It's concession and conclusion time, Mike. So your original, this whole discussion is hinged around, should we empathise with the purveyors of a lie? It's not science, and they continually assert that it is in the face of the objections you have conceded to. Mike, should we empathise with liars?
whilst he's considering that
answer. No, I want an answer.
Well, we shouldn't empathise with liars, no.
There's your answer. No, we should not empathise with them, Mike, because they are liars. They assert that they have science when they don't. I hope that answers your question.
And just let me just add to that. This is important. Let me just put my screen on, Nath. I'll read from it whilst you're putting it on.
You're up.
What science is not. Part 3, science is not technology. And this is cited from the geology department of the University of Georgia. It says, one of the mistakes that many people make in thinking about science is to confuse it with technology. As a result, science often receives undue credit for the miracles of modern science in one's kitchen, or undue blame for everything from overly firm tomatoes to nuclear war. In fact, science doesn't make things. Scientists developed the understanding of radiation sufficient for the invention of the microwave oven, but neither making a microwave oven nor using it are science. Scientists are in the business of generating knowledge, whereas engineers are in the business of generating technology. People doing science often use sophisticated technology, perhaps spectroscopy, but science doesn't require it. Our ecologist observing natural bird behavior and our geologist examining an outcrop neither use particularly sophisticated technology. In fact, the only technology common to all science is the notebook in which the observation is recorded. In short, science often leads to technology, and it is often using technology, but it isn't technology. And in fact, it can operate quite independently of technology. So using spectroscopy and claiming it as science, at least according to this citation from the University of Georgia, isn't science. I'm done.
Well done.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you, the live audience, for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then smash the dislike button, but then smash it again. If you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. Over on my second channel, which is Nathan Oakley channel, there is the pre-show about to broadcast in about 5 minutes time, so I'll stick a link in the chat box as the end credits roll. Once again, I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Word with me last night.
Whether you're coming down London with me, London later on in the year.
When is it?
The last Sunday in the month.
No chance this month.
God, that's over. I feel like shit.
Hey Nathan, did you get the feeling that guy was sent in on purpose to be on our side? Did you think he was a stooge?
Which guy?
That Mike at the end. I don't think he was in here acting daft. I think he was in here as a stooge on our side because he left immediately as the show finished.
I don't know. Maybe he was just on the fence kind of guy asking a straightforward question. He didn't feel like he was trying to be devious in any way.
It's a bit of a weird question, though. Why would somebody ask, do you have empathy for science or empathy for the people that are lying to us?
No, it's a very human question.
Well, it's actually a fallacy.
Yeah,
Appeal to emotion.
Right.
There we go. I didn't want to point out that it was a logical
I have
fallacy
no
because it
problem
generated
with
a
that
really
question.
good conversation. So I wasn't going to criticise him for his fallacy when, good for him. It generated a great conversation.
Yeah, it was a really good conversation. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, if you
Hey,
if
Riley,
listen to the
would
after
you
show,
like to
Mike,
come on early
big shout out to you. And it was pleasant. The biggest thing with someone like that is he's pleasant, wasn't he? He wasn't unreasonable.
No.
Indeed.
I actually think that he was. I can't help but think that he was sent here to be on our side, almost as if he was sent by Globebusters kind of thing to be on our side, but appear as neutral.
You're a proper conspiratard, Anthony.
No, I'm pro. That would be pro-spiracy, would it not?
Whatever. Who cares? You can't speak to motivation, right? You have no idea.
Pro-spiracy? What?
It just seemed a little bit surreal that guy was perfect for us, because I mean, I deliberately tried to get triggered at the topic, not at him. I hope that I presented that the way that I intended it, because I wasn't getting triggered at him.
No, I got it. I clarified that for the audience at one stage, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I directed it at you, but then you got to qualify it, which is to say that I understood what you were doing. You said it. In your words that you used, you're expressing your frustration at those that purvey science when they have pseudoscience. So I got
it. Was almost like the stars lined up then, though, when Rumpus joined, perfectly timed, and then did exactly what he did, which was perfect, and it just made our point perfectly.
It was beautiful because he literally did just do that. And I at the moment, I've said it to the audience enough now that I'm not going to tolerate this shit. I'm not going to go over the same thing 17 times with someone like Rumpus. I think on that occasion it was at least 3, probably 4 times where he basically asserted that you can miss out the hypothesis stage and just take the observation. And his way around it, his weasel words were, well, you do have observations in science. It's like that isn't a justification for missing the step.
It's obvious, Nathan, though. You can even, it's so obvious with what the way he structures his sentence. He's just he's making a statement that's true. It's almost like a concession, but you can see exactly that. It was going, yes, but observation is part of the scientific method, Nathan. And that is true. But he's turning around as if that you conceding that would be a victory, because that wasn't the first point that you raise your objection to. It's bloody obvious, and I think 3 or 4 is sufficient and no more, because that's all that's needed. You don't need an hour of that.
Exactly, you don't need an hour going around in circles with him saying, I've got an observation, and me saying you missed a stage.
I do find him delightful the first 5 to 10 minutes, though. And then when he really starts rumpusing, that's when it gets annoying. But
well, yeah, that's where
I think he was a better guest than P. Mars and
yeah,
guy.
Rumpus was tolerable today.
Yeah, he didn't join immediately. Saying you're
is that the real Travis?
Yeah.
Good.
Oh.
It was tolerable.
Hey, Travis, just tell everybody what Nora said to you about the hangout that she had with you, specifically about me.
I don't want to be dragged into your drama queen business, man.
You trying to get into a pants? Is that what it is, Travis?
It's not.
What am I supposed to say?
She wouldn't let me join the hangout when she knows that I've got valid opposition against her points with evidence. She expressly stated that I was not to join or she'd leave.
Okay, but that's all. Yeah, but that's all she said. All she said was, because what I did originally was I published the link in the Master B chat, so the link was open for anybody to join. So when she said, if I join, if Anthony joins too, I'm out. That's all she said.
Oh, right. So it wasn't an express prohibition.
No. She didn't say don't let you join. But then what I ended up doing was shutting down that chat and starting a new one, and then I only gave her the link.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's not as sinister as I thought. I just wondered, why would I be expressly excluded when she knows that I've got evidence against her opinion?
Yeah.
It just seems that she's deliberately obfuscating that point, no matter what.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go on as well.
Well, I left that up to her. I said, because you and she were having the discussion itself. So I said, if Arwen wants to join, or if you want him to be here, then give him the link. So I just left that up to her.
Fine. Well, I'd have no problem to be together with Riley and maybe Nathan or maybe Adam would be awesome, and have talked this through and try to keep it on an adult level. I probably wouldn't be able to do it alone because she just really rubbed me the wrong way yesterday evening.
What's her point, Arwen? What was she arguing? I understand what your point is. And
You said earlier.
The same, just the same old. And the thing about it is when she Skype called me directly out of nowhere, complaining about what had happened with you. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you've been doing this for months now. You know this happens. And I try to explain why you do what you do and that it has a good reason. Like we're trying to basically, keep the relative density theory stable and as it is because it works. And she just didn't listen, and she just kept on rambling and like got really agitated. And I was like I don't want, you're not like my mother or my daughter or something. I'm not here to basically be yelled at like that over your disgruntling of another person. And it was just rude.
Yeah,
and I dropped, and she just kept on going in personal chat, and just told her like, please stop talking. And she just kept on talking and talking and talking. So I'm just really sick of her because she did that.
I don't mind us spitballing. We all spitball and we all suggest things that may or may
not. Not spitballing, rambling.
Yeah, she's not spitballing. She's going beyond that and preaching it as though it's the gospel, according to Nora. And that's dangerous because making assertions comes with it the burden to prove it. And she hasn't got anything to prove these assertions that she's making. But one of these days, she's going to get called on it. And if I'm in a group with her while she gets called on it, I'm going to look like a dickhead as well because I'm not going to support her. Even though she's my friend and I like her and she's on my side, I'm not going to support her. She hasn't got any evidence for this nonsense, and it should be stopped.
I don't know. It just really feels like she went the same route as I did, but she couldn't let go. And I just knew like this isn't gonna go anywhere. I'm just gonna get more and more emotional about this shit, and our arguments are gonna get worse. You and me, Riley. So I just thought, no, this is useless. I got to be pragmatic and put it on a further notice status. So aberration. That's what it kind of was. It would have helped me to brought that forth at that point if I wanted to argue gravity to be scientifically proven. But because I gave it up, that's why I put that forward. It wasn't.
You go for hours. I'm going to do one, guys. See you all later.
See you later, dude.
Adam.
Later.
I agree with you that there may be something that's above what we're told, or there may be some extra, right? I don't disagree with that. My problem is that there's no evidence for this assertion that she's got of this universal up and down, and I know that you disagree with me on that, but it still requires evidence, even though it's a conjecture.
No, look, Riley, this is a miscommunication, misapproach from both of you. It's simply, there is an up and down. It's just not relevant to the relative density theory.
No, but it is relevant to the claim that she's making.
No, her claim is, it doesn't touch really. You've defended the concept very eloquently, very annoyingly for me at first, but you're just correct. And yeah, I now understand why and why you're doing it. And she's just not giving up, but it's no use. It's just going to keep on deflecting off, and she's being an idiot. She's trying the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. That's the definition of stupidity.
Insanity,
yeah. Sorry. So I'm kind of concerned about this, about her, because it feels like maybe this is a winter thing or something. You know, I used to, during winter times, tend to get negatively obsessed with things and just rant on in a negative way. I used to do that, allow myself to do that, and I basically quit that because it's a terrible habit. You lose a lot of friends in the process, and it's not healthy. So I put a lot of effort over the last 20 years to completely remove giving into that. And I think that she's doing still this, and it's unhealthy.
But like, you guys used to be in pretty much complete agreement, right? Is it that like?
No.
I mean, it almost.
No, we weren't.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
No, we weren't. But we were basically trying to work on from the same angle. She was doing her thing, and I was doing my thing. But no, there were already these fundamental disagreements during that process while I was trying to build a case for gravity.
What about?
But that just didn't matter because it was good to have somebody that would actually elaborately talk about it, and she was one of the few at the time on the flat earth side that would do it.
You understand where she comes from to justify her position. She studied at some level philosophy and focused on Aristotle, So she adapts, or she buys into Aristotelian philosophy, and she accepts it because she's comfortable with it. But the problem is she doesn't. Well, it doesn't matter. But are you and Matt Doxey on the same page, or is Matt Doxey and Nora on the same page?
Mark Doxey has his own angle to it. I don't know. I've had one-on-one communications with him, Skype calls, face-to-face, a couple, some pretty long, and we're having trouble basically trying to adapt to each other's understanding. So just miscommunication of some sort. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Mark Doxey it's kind of the same, except he's not really willing to get into the super fine details of it. It's just, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have the talent for it. It's not his thing. I haven't talked to him in a long while, but I still consider him a friend. He's always been super polite.
Mark's a lovely guy.
I really like him.
Mark's one of the good ones. You know what I mean? I know you don't agree with him necessarily on the gravity thing, but that aside, which isn't even a personal issue, Mark's just genuinely a really good bloke.
Indeed.
I agree.
He just agrees to disagree a lot, and I don't really like doing that.
Well, he's got balls. He's not a pussy. He'll stand his ground. You know, he'll stand his ground. He's not a pussy. And good for him.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Nathan, you know that video that I did about Matt Doxey, where I actually made the video, but I didn't make it public. I left it unlisted so that you could watch it.
Yeah, I remember.
He told somebody, I can't remember who it was now, he told somebody that that's what I'd done and that he was gobsmacked that I never left it public. So what he did then as a response was he removed the original mud throwing video against me because he realized that I actually had a little bit more respect for him than what he thought I had for him. Mainly because he's an elder, and I wasn't going to be like throwing stones at him because he's an elder, but he realized that I wasn't being an ass and then took his video.
He's not even that old.
No, he is pretty old, but he's still very impulsive.
He's not
He's
that old.
late 50s.
He can't. He's probably in his early 50s. He's probably about 10 or 12 years older than us.
He's late 50s, definitely.
Ancient.
I don't reckon he's that old. He's just got a scruffy beard. He just doesn't shave often enough. That don't make him old.
Well, anyway, I still consider him an elder, right? Rightly or wrongly. So I didn't do what... Anyway, my point was that he removed his original video because he realized that I could have gone public with it and just created more drama with it. But I didn't. And I didn't do it on purpose because I didn't... He doesn't need it. It's not what I'm here to do. I'm trying to just show these things that are fallacious and show why they're fallacious. And it's always to do with the evidence for me. It's never to do with the person.
Right.
That was a really good show. That really quiet. No PMARS being a dickhead.
Yeah, and so was my show, by the way, and he was on it.
Yeah, I saw PMARS on it.
Yeah, I was startled the shit because I thought, oh shit, he might screw me up or something. But no, he was really nice. Wasn't even impolite or silly.
Why do you think Rumpus was so uncharacteristically tolerable, if I could say it with a cold?
I think it's because we were all having a conversation. It wasn't contentious, and he couldn't be contentious when nobody else is being contentious.
Yeah, it's usually when you guys start calling these ballers liar and deceiver and going into that's what really triggers them all.
Yeah, but we were doing that. We were telling lies.
But they are. We painstakingly took
Not
that dude through it today. They're saying this is science, and they're trained in sciences, and they know what science is. Rumpus definitely knows what science is, and even in the face of objections, he'll just carefully phrase his words, as Adam put it, to get a concession, because, observation is part of the scientific method. It's just not the entire method, and that's what you need for an adherence to the method. But in doing so, he's being deceitful, he's lying, and that's the point, Arwin. So, I'm going to call a spade a spade. He's lying. He says it's science. It's not. He knows what science is, and it ain't that. So he's a liar. And why wouldn't we call a spade a spade?
Of course, we have Rumpus. Come on, we had a long history. Rumpus is kind of special.
Go on, tell us.
I don't know. I just see him as a Loki figure. He's an obvious opponent, but he's very amusing. Even in his attempts at deception, he is amusing. I don't know. until he just starts going into rumpus mode, and then it just gets disruptive.
Well, that's where I
is
kicked
like
him.
the supervillain of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, would you not agree that if I hadn't kicked him
like-
when I kicked him, that would have descended into rumpusing?
No, but of course, look, when he starts really rumpusing and you kick him, that's perfectly normal because, yeah, the show's just going to be a mess or you talking while he rumpuses in the background and we can't hear a word you're saying. So, yeah, if he does that, then just kick him, you know? Nobody's going to be objecting to that but him. I see no problem with that.
It's me that's got the problem. I want to have a conversation. You know, I don't want to have to kick him. And initially, it would go on, wouldn't it? He'd be doing it for an hour solid because I wouldn't want to kick
Look,
him.
as soon as he joins, just put up your alarm clock and just say, okay, 10 minutes. And if he's not starting or already rumpusing after that 10 minutes, then a miracle has happened.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. It's not a clock. It's when does he start to obfuscate the point? And when you get to the circle jerk of 3 or 4 times of saying, well, yeah, you're not adhering to the method. It's just at that point, he's got 2 choices. Rumpus to obfuscate that point or concede. Well, he's never going to concede. So he's left with one option, rumpus.
Yep. Well, the only way to avoid that is to basically not try to force his hand. And that's up to you. It's basically entertaining him to a certain level.
Yeah, on the other hand as well, you're leaning more towards Dell's approach, and Dell's approach, as we all know, is to kick them immediately, and that is what he does. And on some occasions, I agree, but on the other hand, with the debate show, I think that you should be reluctant to kick people, because it is a debate show, and if it is a game to them people, these people are balling, playing games. Is it right to kick them when they're playing the game? Should we not just play the game against them and just attack?
Exactly.
Or do we kick them? Because
that's the attitude I do try and adopt. I am reluctant to kick them, but ultimately speaking, how many times do you want to play the same game? So in the case of today, yes, I probably did it sooner than I would have done ordinarily. Normally we get up to, it started at 100 times, in excess of 100 times with him doing something with 1 point being made. And then it dropped to about 50, then it dropped to about 20, then it dropped to about 10. Now we're in the single figures. The show before last, it was 7 times I think I went over something with him before I kicked him. This time it's 3. Well, yeah, any less than that, you think, well, you're not really letting him play the game at all. But as far as I'm concerned, I've played the game. Okay, now I've played the game again. No, you're still not conceding. Right, let's play the game a 3rd time. Now I'm sick of playing the game.
Yeah.
I was just really surprised with the other guy who started like really throwing vile shit at you, like disgusting swear words, that you didn't kick him for that. I was just like, whoa.
I think that might have been Tommy with a voice changer.
I don't know who it was, but he just really exploded all of a sudden and got really vile with you, Nathan. You might not have heard it because you were talking over him or something, but
none of that made it to air. So, I mean, I just did the same back to him and then just went live. I was like, oh, whatever. So I just started the show and then, but I can see the levels dancing up and down. And if I wanted to listen to him, I could. It's just, why bother? Just call the guy a cunt and kick him out. But I didn't even kick him out. I don't know if someone else kicked him out because I didn't.
He left and then I kicked his thing because...
Oh, so he dropped. So as soon as I mirrored his own actions and started swearing at him, he left.
I guess.
Yeah, I think so. That's what Owen said.
Yeah, fair enough. Problem is, I've got a much better mic, so all of my swear words will have made it to air. None of them will, probably. But there we go.
Yeah, he sounded like he was speaking through a sock.
I don't know if it was a sock, but he had a crap point, and he didn't like it when you picked it apart, eh?
Yeah.
But it is a good comparison to GeoStreamer with his reification fallacy that doesn't come from any real-world data.
Yeah. And when you spot that, that's where Brandon Toy pennies dropped. His penny dropped at that day. He loves that. He loves being reminded of that because he realised it, and then the point got obfuscated. And looking back in hindsight, he loves being reminded that he'd spotted it, and then now he realises that his point was obfuscated. So he learned that day. He knows that these play tactics, these play tricks.
And that's the thing. We're trying to be as squeaky clean as we possibly can, even in a mild assertion from our opposition that we've been disingenuous. So today you've got Alan saying, "Oh, I can see Ireland." No, that's a misrepresentation of the video that's had about 120,000 views now or something crazy. And there's a bloody question mark that they ignore. So we've got to try and be 100% squeaky clean, give all the data up front, go to the nth degree, verifying the data that we give them in terms of these measurements and heights and GPS locations. That's what we've got to do. What they've got to do, supposedly with the truth on their side, is play games, obfuscate points that are winning or losing for them, put traps and tricks into their proofsies. I'm going to start calling that like Tim Osmond does. Proofsies. Is this a little proofsies, is it? Let's see a little proofsies.
That is so gay. Sorry.
Did you have any more thoughts about what I said yesterday evening, Anthony, about the whole starting reference level for these mountains?
To be honest, Nathan, I was half cut, and I can't even remember what your question was. Ask it again now.
Okay. If you're going to say how much the top of these mountains should reference to each other, but your starting point is them both on a zero plane. They're both at sea level, right? That's where the measurement begins for their altitude. You with me so far?
Yeah.
So you've got, in my opinion, I could be wrong, I'll ask it as a question, is it the case that if you're starting with them both on a flat plane, referenced at zero, sea level, then if you have that concession from your opponent, then you've immediately won. So point one, is it both referencing a flat plane? If you were to depict it on a side elevation, does it start with them both on the same reference plane, zero, sea level? If the answer is yes, well then they're both on a flat plane. You've won. If the answer is no, then the assertion would be ipso facto that surface, that apparent reference at zero, is somehow curved, right? Well, if that's the case, you've already got the curve engineered in at the bottom reference point. The mathematics at the top suddenly aren't necessary or are wrong.
Well, wouldn't the answer to that be it's a reification fallacy on either model?
Yeah, I'm just trying to work with. I'm working with you, man. Don't throw it straight back in my face the first time I ever do it. Yeah, I am begging the question along with you. I'm just saying, within the model, does the model, for example, for extrapolation of his example, start with them on a flat plane or start with them on a curved plane for the mathematics in comparison to each other? That's basically my question.
Well, the answer is, on Sly's Hangout, he did them on both, didn't he? The maths was, he started it with a curve and he started it with a sphere, with a plane.
No, I'm not saying the comparison between the two models. What I'm saying is, where do you get the reference, the zero, from? What's that actually referencing?
Well, it's referencing the tangent point, isn't it, from the centre of the sphere on a ball.
So is the difference at the top, therefore, negated by the fact that it's already accounted for at the bottom, or not?
Is the difference at the top of the mountain already accounted for at the bottom?
Yeah, if it's already starting on a curve, according to the mathematics, then the difference between the two mountains is already accounted for by that reference being at different points across a spherical surface. Whereas if it's not, and zero means zero, they're on the same plane to begin with, then they're on the same plane to begin with.
Well, that's the perspective point, isn't it? Things get smaller, but they also drop behind the curve. That's the drop value. So you should apply the height of the mountain against the drop value.
Yeah, so if you were to ask to see it drawn in orthographic view for both of them, and then they say, well, there's, they're both starting at zero in terms of your elevation that you put up, and one is drawn on a curve and one's drawn on a flat. Well, how do you get the zero reference point on a sphere to then tally up with what's at the top if you've already accounted for it at the bottom? So the only way to see how they're actually drawing it is to get them to draw it in orthographic view. And if they're drawing it on a curve, It's like, well, how do you get your zero reference?
Yeah, you may well be right, but it's really convoluted to explain that, and I don't think anybody in the chat would understand it.
Well, I could dilute it down to what is the starting point of quote-unquote sea level? What's that?
Well, it's level on a curve, isn't it? Level on a ball is still a curve.
Oh, that's a contradiction in terms. Level on a curve?
I know.
That's a contradiction in terms.
I completely agree, but that's their position. I've heard them say it loads of times. Level is still level on a curve. It's just at a different angle.
Well, I'm going to need that. I'm going to need that showing to me in diagrammatical form. How level, i.e., two things with a zero reference point, are both simultaneously level at 0 and curved at 0. Because if they're at different points, they're not at the same point, but they're both starting with the same reference of sea level. So either I'm confused or somebody in the comments in the after show will explain it. I have no idea. It's a question. I don't know how their nonsense works in this regard. What I do know is we've got sea level.
Yeah, they bastardise the meaning of the word sea level, and they say that it's still it's level to, it's tangent and perpendicular to an arc, but it's not level relative to the thing that was once level at the previous point. You know, further around the curve, it's not level to that anymore, but it's level to the environment it's in.
Yeah.
So basically, it's subjectively level or
I have heard that
level.
double speak a few times. It does sound familiar.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, double speak.
It's the same thing as somebody telling us that curved lines are made of straight lines.
I
believe Milo said that one day.
Yeah, parallel versus crepuscular. I can't say it with a cold.
Yeah.
Crepuscular.
Crepuscular.
Let me ask Alex. There was an in phrase that you were using for a while, which was curvilinear perspective. And I remember you said that Chris Monk gave it to you. Do you remember using the phrase curvilinear perspective?
No.
Nathan, do you remember him using it?
Yes, I do. Don't worry, Arwen. You did it only for a very short period of time, but yes, you did. Don't worry. It's probably not that pertinent to the point Anthony's about to make. Don't worry about it.
No, my question was, did it originate from Chris Monk? Well, I know it originated from Chris Monk, but did you hold on to it even after Chris left and became a geocentric Baltan or whatever it is that he is now? Because I noticed that you don't use that phrase anymore.
I don't even remember what that's supposed to be.
That straight lines that can be represented by curves in curvilinear perspective. In other words,
that's R-based linearity, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Curve-based linearity. That's right. That basically it's basically if you put a fisheye lens on top of a normal lens and it makes everything look bendy. That's curvilinear perspective, right? But it's a photography thing that you put a stupid lens on and it gives you this distorted, like looking in one of those funny mirrors. That's curvilinear perspective. But I just noticed that you don't use it anymore, and I just wondered, was it because Chris Monk, whatever, or is it because obviously?
Nah, it's just because the word is superfluous. It might be perfectly correct, but fisheye lens is very to the point, and everyone gets that very quickly. So I just use fisheye lens.
Cool.
Hello, little sausage.
I think that was probably one of the most informative shows that we've had in a long time.
Indeed. I thought that about yesterday's show, and then Slick James Johnson left a comment saying, "My God, that was a snooze fest." I was like, "Oh, really? I thought that was a really good show."
Yeah, I was going to say that about yesterday's show.
Well, that it was a good show.
And actually, a few of the shows lately have been really.
Oh, they're all ace. I like you,
I don't
Chocolate.
know, that Slick guy. He always. I don't know. For some reason, he always has something negative to say about the show.
Come here.
I think Jimbo's.
I don't know what's...
Come here, then. Come and have a cuddle, then, you misery.
I agree. No, I agree. He has been unreasonably negative at times.
Like it's like he always has all this praise for Nathan, but there's like the rest of the panel's like, they're just like little kids or something. Like, what are you talking about, dude? I don't understand his point. I wish he would come into the And I'm sure he'll
James
probably
Johnson,
listen.
yeah.
So
He did
come on
train.
the panel one day.
He'll criticise
He
Arwen,
did.
and my reply will be like, Arwen is ace.
Thanks.
I don't know. Sometimes I get the impression that he could be trying to cause a bit of a rift, but then I just think, no. The amount of times I call Anthony a conspirator
Nathan,
for
I've
such
thought
notions.
the same thing, Nathan. Every time I read his comment, I think the same thing. Like he's trying to cause some type of rift, I guess is the best word.
Yeah.
A little weird.
Well, I think that a lot of people that are trying things out with Flat Earth that we probably even don't know about, or that we are unsure about what their motives are, I think they may be seeing Flat Earth debates as very serious competition, and they just want to try to dilute it so they may have more chance of getting attention from it. I don't know.
Well, there's no other shows like this on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? With an open panel that people can come in and just talk. This is a pretty unique thing for this, not only for this topic, but I think for YouTube.
It's very
Could be wrong.
confrontational.
I don't know.
I really think that that this is kind of the cutting edge. To me, don't mind the comparison, but it feels to me like this is the Alex Jones show of Flat Earth. Tip of the spear.
I like that.
Because it is unique and it does grab a lot of attention and it is hardcore. And it is also hardcore scientific and hardcore knowledge. So, yeah, this is the tip of the spear in this scene. Nobody else gets this done. Like, if they try it, it always turns into a politicized setup where one of the groups completely kicks out the other one eventually or very quickly and just starts monologuing. That's what most people do on the ball side, but also on the Flat Earth side. They still tend to do this.
You have a nice news.
Yeah.
Broken up.
So Liverpool have got Bayern Munich in the last 16 of the Champions League. Woo!
Hooray. Hey, did you see? Oh yeah, of course you did see that guy. What's his name again?
What guy?
What came on the show today? On my show. What's his name again?
The guy who was talking about putting turmeric on your forehead.
Yeah.
Why would you put turmeric on the forehead?
Well, he described it and said that it would decalcify your pineal gland, and then almost immediately after confessed that he had got no evidence to back it whatsoever, which I thought was quite amusing.
Other than a bright yellow spot in the middle of his forehead.
No. He had an explanation for it. He just hasn't personally tested it out. But this is knowledge from India, basically. And I there might be something to it. I find it a fascinating concept. Although, yeah, ingesting it will probably do that. But I've already found articles in Natural News that do confirm that it also does that as an unexpected positive side effect through consumption. So I don't know about the rubbing on the forehead thing, if that actually works as well as proclaimed. But yeah, ingesting it does do that.
Yeah, I didn't know turmeric was something you could apply topically. I had no idea about that.
Well, you can do it with silver. The skin and the intestines are surprisingly similar in cellular nature. So if you rub something on your skin, it's gonna be absorbed and eventually, become part of you.
That's the reason why you shouldn't write on the back of your hand with ink.
And that's why you shouldn't use chemical sunscreen.
Yes.
And deodorant with aluminum oxide in it and crap.
Yeah, well, if you don't use deodorant...
And perfume with benzene crap chemicals. Because it all gets absorbed. Becomes part of your system. And fluoride toothpaste, for that matter, as well.
It was a really good show. That I enjoyed that. Do you know what? I really enjoyed being aggressive with that guy, but not with him personally. I enjoyed attacking the point he was making rather than attacking him.
Because that's the best strategy. Don't attack the person, attack the argument.
Yeah.
Attack the stance.
I'd like to think that he thought that that's exactly what I did. I'd like to not think that he thought I was attacking him.
I think he got that.
I'm going to try and round out this after show with my little monster climbing all over me. Hopefully she'll allow me to do so. Let's see. So first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you, the audience, in the premiere of this on Nathan Oakley channel. If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley channel and you're unaware that it's my second channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the pre-show and after-show goodness. Also, in about an hour, maybe a little over an hour's time, there will be the live debate, which will take place on Nathan Oakley 1980. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!